government's asking you to do this. Paperwork is changing today. Paperwork's changing tomorrow. Your caseload was once 20, but now the state's like, just kidding, now it's 40. There's too many moving pieces, I think, for it to be just about numbers.
Introduce yourself, say your name, and what you do for occupation.
My name is Helen. For an occupation, I am a licensed therapist, and I also work for the state of Texas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So last night we met at a open mic, and then had to have. We went to dinner together.
Yeah.
So I know that was kind of like weird.
It was abrupt. It was abrupt, but I mean, it was.
Yeah, it was cool.
Nice, yeah.
Yeah, but when we were talking to Sam, she was saying that you're her supervisor.
Yes.
So how did you get into that position as a supervisor?
So I was actually in Sam's position, and we both worked for the state. And then I've been there for four years or so. And yeah, my boss got promoted, and then I got promoted. And she was one of my first hires, actually. So this is my first time as a supervisor, at least in the, professional sense.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of the first people that I interviewed and hired. So she's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she has a lot of personality.
Yes.
And I'm curious to know what was that process like when you were hiring her? Like, what made you say, okay, yeah? Or did she have that personality in her interview? I can see her having it, to be honest.
Yeah. Samantha's a treat. So when we first interviewed her, she was actually still in Atlanta.
Okay.
So her interview was on Zoom, which is not something that we typically do, but it was on Zoom. So I was actually only in her second interview because on her first interview, I happened to be out of office.
Mm-hmm.
My coworkers know that when it comes to hiring and putting my team together, personality really matters to me.
Uh-huh.
I think that how the team gets along impacts how they show up at work.
Mm-hmm.
So her personality wasn't that big on camera. She was doing her best to reel it in. But we definitely had some moments where I was like, okay, I can see this. I can see this working. And yeah, now I know when Samantha's coming down the hallway, she's got a big personality. But I love it. I really wouldn't change it.
Yeah. So how many people have you hired on since you've been in your position?
So our team is capped at 6. I manage a team of 6, and when I started, we only had 3.
Mm-hmm.
We only had 3, so I've hired 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So the other 2, what's their personality like?
So one of them is kind of mellow. She's kind of mellow, and then the other one is kind of an in-between. So she's kind of a mixture of Samantha and then a mixture of the other one. But I mean, everyone on the team, I don't think anybody has the same personality. Everybody's very different, but everybody just gets along. It really just makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So I wrote a book on servant leadership, right? And so I'm interested to know, is that similar to your leadership style, or what is your leadership style exactly?
Interesting. What is my leadership style? I try to be not a boss to my team.
Okay.
I think I learned that from my supervisor.
Mm-hmm.
The way she leads her team is very collaborative. So there's not like a power issue there where, she throws around the fact that she's your supervisor, and I try to do the same with my team. So I meet them where they're at. When you work for the government, there's a lot of things that the government requires from you, in a timely manner. You're meeting metrics. There's just things that the government requires. So for me, that's important, but it's not a priority. So I have a conversation with them all the time. I like to know what's going on in their personal lives, because what's going on in your personal life affects how you show up at work. So if I'm seeing things slack, I'm like, okay, what's going on? And most of the times I know that they've got, something's going on with their child or something's going on with their family. And so I'm able to step in, and then we're still able to meet metrics because I know what's going on, and I'm not kind of forcing them to do something that they don't have the capacity to do. So I try to be collaborative, I ask them what they need, and it works.
Yeah, I agree. I talk about treating people as people in my book a lot. That's like my favorite line, because I think it's really good to get to know your people so that you can understand how to lead them, how to guide them, and also be able to relate to them.
Right.
Because like you said, if they're having things going on in their personal life, how can they really show up to work, honestly? So when someone is showing up in a way that they, usually, let me reword that. When someone is showing up in a way they typically don't, like they're underperforming, because work still has to be done, you know? So how do you manage that?
I think for me, it kind of depends. This is the first time in a long time that, things are off. I might let that first month, because they measure us monthly. I might let that first month, slide. But let's say, another month comes by. Okay, now we're having a conversation. I like to ask them, what are your barriers? That's my favorite question, and they're sick of hearing it. It's just what I like to ask, because, I want to know what is going on. And then I have a habit of overextending myself, and I think it shows up in the way that I supervise. Because what they don't do, I will do. But the thing is, when you have 6 people and each of them have things to do, and then let's say 3 of them this month can't do what they're supposed to do, and then I'm doing it, it doesn't change the fact that I still have to do my job.
Yeah.
So, now I'm pulling late nights, now I'm pulling the late hours, but I think it helps with retention when you treat people, like you said, because I think, it's very easy to have a high turnover if you don't care about the fact that people are people and all you care about is the numbers. So, I'm okay with overextending myself for a month to give them the opportunity to, kind of recalibrate and come back to their normal selves the next month. So it just works.
Yeah. So as a Black woman do you have any problems with that? Do you have with your managers, or even when you are managing your subordinates, do you have any barriers, like you said, with that?
Yeah, that's a heavy question. I think I'm fortunate in that my peers are also Black women.
Okay.
So my whole team is full of Black women. My supervisor is a Black woman. Our chief authority officer is a Black woman. So
we love that.
Yeah, it's a very culturally diverse company. But I really think that's kind of what comes with social services and governmental work. I think we just are the ones who extend ourselves to do that job. So I'm fortunate in that regard. But I will say that ever since I became a supervisor, I'm maybe more hyper aware of the ways in which the higher ups pull strings. I think there's just things you're not privy to when you're not in certain roles. And I think once I got into this role, there's just a lot of things that I noticed. So yeah, I would say that there are barriers. There are barriers, but I feel like that's every position. I feel like that's every position, and it helps that my peers are also Black women, because then we're able to talk about it. And although the people above them might be asking them to do something, the way that they bring that information to me is in a way that is easy to digest. So I don't really feel it as much, but I know that the barriers are there.
Yeah. Okay, so the Women in Leadership podcast I did last week, we had a conversation about working with Black women, and they said that the hardest people to work with are Black women and white women. So you're making it I have this amazing experience. What do you have? Is it just you think it was because you strategically brought in the people that are they work with your personality, or is it just do you have any problems or working with Black women?
I don't at all.
Yeah.
If anything, I feel like it helps me understand them and they understand me. So that's just not been my experience, at least not in this role.
Yeah.
Right. Because maybe in a different role, things would be different. But in this role, I haven't really had any issues. And if anything, I feel more understood.
Yeah.
I feel more understood. And just as much as I show up for my team, all the other supervisors, we show up for each other, right?
Yeah.
Because, they have families. I mean, I have a puppy, but they have families and children, but we're able to show up for each other because we understand, kind of what the experience is like being a Black woman in corporate.
Right, yeah. Right. So do you think it's more like what's understood doesn't have to be said in your working environment, or do you actually just talk about the frustrations amongst each other?
I'm fortunate enough to have a team that does talk about those things, and our team isn't just Black women. We have some Hispanics as well.
Okay.
And when we go and have lunch, I mean, it took some time, because they didn't know me. They've been supervising us for a while, and I was kind of the newbie. Me and one other young lady, we were the newer ones.
Mm-hmm.
But once we broke the ice, I mean, we have lunch together all the time. We talk about our frustrations, whether it's with each other, whether it's with our teams, whether it's with upper management, and we bounce off of each other. So
yeah,
it works out. But I think the space had to be created for that. For me, it took a while to understand, like, okay, if I am to express my frustration here, it's not gonna like leave this room and go to somewhere else. And then also, I think you have to use discernment. Yeah. I know what I can say to person A and B, and I know what I can't say to person C and D.
Right.
So it's just more so about discernment, I think, in a situation like that.
Okay, that's great, because I was going to say the discernment part, just about just knowing your people. And what do you do intentionally to get to know your people? Because I wrote about that as well, taking time to build rapport with your employees. So how did you do it?
I think building rapport involves me letting my team know that they can trust me.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to work overtime to get them to a point where they're telling me their business. Yeah. I want them I share, right? Yeah. So then they know, okay, this is a safe space. And if they tell me something, I keep it to myself.
Right.
Or I just model it by action, right? If you're telling me you have these things going on, I might tell you, hey, you know what, don't worry about this meeting and this meeting, I'll sit in them for you without them even asking me.
Yeah.
So that now in the future, they are comfortable asking me. But rapport is extremely important. I think it's the only way that you can survive anything is rapport.
Yeah.
You gotta know your people. You really do. And I know also that I don't use a one-size-fits-all approach. I've got different temperaments on my team, like I said, so I know how I can say something to one person. I know what words to use with another person. I wouldn't deliver the same information the same way across all six. Right. And that takes the building rapport.
Right. So. That's good, because I actually wrote about that too. So it seemed like we pretty similar.
This book.
Well, it's a workshop. So it's to help leaders to not, like you said, it's not a one size fit all.
Yeah. And
I believe with you being a servant, you know how to adjust to people, you know. So that's actually good that you do that. So my thing is, I also had a thing in my book that was called Glory Days. So with the Glory Days, it was a reward system. So I was working in a call center, and they were not performing well. I was newer to leadership. I was like, I don't know what's going on, why they're not performing. So when I sat back, I was like, let me try to see like how I could help them to perform better. And so what I did was I was like, hey, one thing when I was working like directly on the calls, I was like, I don't really like being on the phone like all the time, like just constantly. And so I provided them with a break, an extra break if they were to meet their metrics. And I was like, let me try this out. And I was like, hey, I want to try something out. And I had a team meeting first. I also asked for their opinions as well, because I think a lot of times they don't feel heard. So I was like, what do y'all think about this? Like, how do y'all think this process would be? And they were like, I think it'll be good because we do need breaks. We don't like to be on the phones all the time, constantly. So when I incorporated it, it was like I gave the top 3 people. Like, you know, of course, if you were number 1, you got it a little bit better, you know. So, anyway, I incorporated that, but also it was like competition. So I was like, okay, this is actually working. You know what I mean? So have you done anything similar to that? Because it seems like we are, you know, in sync with our leadership styles. So have you?
Yeah, so the way that I incorporated it for me looks like giving them remote working days. Everybody loves working from home, myself included.
Yeah.
It never happens to me. But that's what I have in place for them. First of all, I did have a meeting when I first stepped into the role because I had a very unique transition in that 3 of the people that were already established on the team, I was once their peer.
Right.
So I went from being a part of this team to managing the same team.
Right.
So having to shift our dynamic was very just tricky.
Yeah.
It was tricky in itself. But I did have a meeting, you know, the first team meeting, I was like, okay, what's working, what's not working, what do y'all think would fix this? So, you know, they were able to kind of tell me their needs and what's frustrating to them, which I kind of knew a lot of it because I was once in their role.
Right.
But what I did was sometimes a monthly metric can seem huge. So I broke it down to weekly. I was like, okay, I'm just going to pull your productivity at the end of each week. And if your productivity is where it's supposed to be, you only need to come to the office once a week.
Oh, wow. That's
and when I tell you, I barely have to think about metrics because they don't want to come to the office.
Yeah.
So they come to the office once a week, you know, just because I have to do, you know, supervisions and, you know, fill out all these sheets for the company to start process. But it works. It works. And then, you know, let's say if their metric consistently is bad, then they get an additional office day. So in the same way, I use it in reverse.
Right.
So, you know, the less you're performing, the more you're in the office. The more you're performing, the less you're in the office.
Right.
And it works.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's.
Yeah.
Do you have to use the reverse a lot of times, or is
no,
it very rare?
It's pretty rare because, like I said, I do give them, like, you know, sometimes you have an off month.
Yeah.
You know, just be like that sometimes. You have an off month.
Yeah.
But if it's like consistently something going on, yeah, I'll add an office day. If next week something else is going on, you get another office day. So it's rare, but I have had to use it a few times. But eventually, once they come into the office 5 days a week, they're like, oh, okay, I don't like this.
Yeah.
So it usually fixes itself pretty quick.
Yeah. That's cool. So did they express their gratitude about how did that make you feel just as a leader?
I think it made me feel good.
Yeah.
I always seek feedback from my team. I think it's really important to seek feedback. So I have supervision meetings with them individually every week, once a week. But once a month, I have just like a general team meeting. And I seek feedback every single month. And sometimes they'll tell me like, yeah, you were tripping. This is not, you were thinking too hard, you know? And I'm like, okay, I'll self-adjust because I think it's helping me become a better leader to hear what I think is working, how it's being received. So yeah, they definitely express gratitude. And like I said, you know, I think above everything else, they see each other as more than coworkers.
Yeah.
And they see me as a person that they can relate to. And so because of that, they're able to give feedback. They're able to express their gratitude. They're able to express dissatisfaction. So
yeah. So as a team, you said that they like feel like family. Do you think you guys help each other develop personally outside of work? Do you feel like
I love that question because that really is what I think makes my team strong. Not only do I know what's going on, they know what's going on. So if somebody's struggling in a relationship or, you know, something is going on, there's always a way that they uplift each other. And sometimes our team meetings literally turn into therapy sessions.
Yeah.
They completely turn into therapy sessions because if somebody's got something going on and you can tell that their energy's off, you know, someone might call it out and now we're having a whole powwow. So I think there's an investment in each other's personal life that I think makes all the difference.
Yeah. So with you being a licensed therapist, do you see the similarities in a licensed therapist and just someone who's a leader who did not go to school for therapy?
That's an intense question. Do I see the difference? No. I was telling Sam on yesterday, actually, because we had a supervision meeting together. And I was telling her, I was like, you would make a great therapist. And she's not licensed by any means, but her approach, the way she shows up for the team, the way she shows up for her clients, it's very like she meets them where they're at. And so I don't see a difference between, like, if she hadn't told me, she would, I would have assumed that, oh, you're probably like a therapist in some capacity.
Right.
I think you really only see the education piece, you really only see it when it comes to specific things, like I would have to know, things to diagnose you. I would have to know, just more the clinical stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of how people show up, I think that it's very easy to present as a therapist without being licensed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's fair.
It's a personality thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
People
sure.
are just empathetic
Yeah.
and leaders, and they care about what's going on with other people, and it comes natural to them.
Yeah.
So
should people be promoted to leaders just because they are high performers?
Ooh. No. I think it takes more than like numbers to be a leader. Because like we're talking about, it is very layered. There has to be a certain personality, I think, for you to be able to lead a team, care about a team. I think you can probably lead a team that performs numbers, but in terms of like building a team that is actually unified and things like that, I think it takes a lot more than just meeting numbers or metrics or things like that.
Do you see that? Wait, okay. How long have you been in corporate, first of all?
I've been in corporate, do you think therapist count as corporate?
No.
5 years? 6? 5? 5.
Is it?
5 years.
Is therapy corporate? Or just in leadership roles in general?
It's about 5.
Okay. So over your time, have you seen people be promoted into leadership type of roles that weren't necessarily a good fit because they were just good at what they did?
Yes.
100%. How effective was that?
I mean, it's just not effective. It really just isn't. I think, especially, we're talking about a really high stress environment, right? The government's asking you to do this. Paperwork is changing today. Paperwork's changing tomorrow. Your caseload was once 20, but now the state's like, just kidding, now it's 40. There's too many moving pieces, I think, for it to be just about numbers. And so I think when you have a leader that's only focused on the numbers, what you'll see is high turnover.
Yeah.
So you want that retention piece isn't there. Nobody wants to grow within the company. They're literally, it's just a means to an end. And I think it really shows up in how people are doing things, like documenting the things that are happening. When someone cares and feels invested and feels like, I care about the people I work with and the people I'm serving, the work that they put out is a lot more detailed than it would be if all they're focused on is just meeting a number.
Yeah, I understand that. And so why, I've heard you say retention a lot. Why is that important to you?
It's important to me for a lot of reasons. It's important to me, number one, because training somebody, showing them how to grasp an ever-changing role like that is exhausting.
Yeah.
It is exhausting. And like I said, I feel like the longer you're at a company, the more investment you have in the company. And so when things change, you're more likely to adapt.
Yeah.
And I see it in myself, right? I think if I had a different supervisor, I probably wouldn't be at this company. Well, my supervisor cared, right? She met us where we were at. And so it made me want to grow in the company. It wasn't just a means to an end. I would wake up not miserable, like, oh, okay, I'm about to see my coworkers and make me happy.
Yeah.
You're working, yes, but we spend a lot more time with our coworkers than we do our family sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's really important that environment is an environment that doesn't feel, hostile, or doesn't feel like your job is just to crank out numbers. And so I do think retention is extremely important, because the longer someone's there, the more invested that they are.
Yeah, that's good. I think that I agree with you 100%. I worked at a position and at Peloton, I loved it. I love that job because like it was just so fun, you know. But we also our leadership, like even the CEO, like the CEO of our company, literally would come down and hang out with us. Literally, like he would have like parties with us, you know, drink and just like have a good time with us. And also when we would have our town meetings, like our town hall meetings, he would come and ask the people like at the very bottom, like, hey, like what's the problems? Like how can we improve as a company, you know? So and he actually make the changes. And you could just see, just like you said, the retention was very high. Like people would not really leave, and it really wasn't like they didn't fire a lot of people. So we actually really like loved the company. It was fun. Like, and we were also a part of the product. You know, we would see the product like to evolve, and it's good when you see things evolve and when you see processes evolve, you know, because it makes it easier for you, and you're like able to appreciate the evolution of the company, because you're like, oh wow, they're making this easier for us, and like now we're pros at this, and it helps with training as well, because when the new people come, we can help train them, and you don't have to put as much stress on the trainers, you know. So I agree with that.
Yeah, people need to feel like they're a part of something, like they're not just a number. And it really goes back to, you know, that power thing. I think what a lot of higher upper management forgets is that throwing your power around actually doesn't help.
Yeah.
It actually does not help at all. And people want to feel like they're a part of something. And I think it's the same way even in a church.
Yeah.
I was on the way here, I was talking to this young lady at my church, and her and I tag teamed the young adult ministry. And we were talking about, you know, ways we want to improve the ministry and things like that. And we were having this conversation about how important it is that people feel like they're a part of the ministry. The ministry has leaders, yes, but, you know, when I think about serving in any type of ministry, it's me walking in there and being like, okay, what can I bring? I want this ministry to feel like mine too. Even if I'm not a leader, right? I want it to feel like mine too. I keep using the word investment, but that's really what it is. People want to feel like they're invested in something. And so I think that's why it's important to have different roles within different companies, is that, okay, I have a piece here, you have a piece there, and you have a piece there, and together we make this system that flows and it's well oiled.
Yeah.
But if one person's running everything, then you just feel like, you know, it's a puppeteer pulling the strings. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah. I like that, because when you say ministry, it's like, because it's so large, you know, and it's like, how do you make a large congregation feel unison, like in unison, and feel like they're a part of something without feeling like just like, hey, I'm here, like, you know, in a big ocean, and just feeling like, hey, we're all just amongst each other.
Especially
you know?
in a big church.
Yeah.
Especially in a big church, you can really get lost. And I think you mentioned you go to one community.
Yeah.
Right? So that's what I've heard about one community. Like I said, I haven't really been, but that's what I've heard, is that even when you come visit, someone's always asking you, how would you like to serve?
Yeah.
And I think that's what sets the church apart, and I think that's really why it's growing so much.
Actually,
because everybody feels like they're a part of something, like they're not lost in the crowd, and I think that says a lot.
Yeah, they really do. They force, like, not force, that's the wrong word. They really push. They really push you being a part of the church. They want you to feel a part, and they also acknowledge the fact that we honestly, like, as the leaders of this church, we honestly just can't. We don't have the capacity to really know every single person. But we do want it to feel like an extension of our love, because we have like small groups. They really push being a part of a small group. And then also, like you said, serving, and it's just, it makes you feel a part. And I think that's why I like it so much, is because I do feel a part. I have my own like family, friend circle amongst the church. And then also we come together as a whole, and we have like a really good time and like connect with people. So I think that's why it is growing though. So,
That's me.
yeah. But yeah, I really appreciate you coming
Yeah, of course.
and driving out here.
Very impromptu, but
Yeah.
it's nice.
Yeah, I like that. But I really would like to work with you
Of
in
course.
the future.
Yeah.
We can definitely work together later
Yeah.
on. But yeah, I appreciate you.
Thank you.